Hey, everybody, welcome in to the Skol Purple podcast as we have once again witnessed a Vikings victory, the sixth in a row, and the Minnesota Vikings are now 7-1 after a 20-17 victory over the Washington Football Commanders. So another one of those games that it just... This was a little different than some of the other games because the Vikings were actually down by 10 points during the game at one point. So the fact that the Vikings were able to come back and win this game, like, I don't know about you, but as a Vikings fan, in that third quarter when Washington went up by 10 points, I'm just sitting here like, okay, this game's over. Like, that's just how Vikings games have gone before. It just seemed like all the momentum was on Washington's side. And the Vikings offense was anemic ever since the beginning of the game. When that opening drive went for a touchdown, they looked great on the opening drive, which has been a theme, by the way. They look great on the opening drive, and then they go into the next drive or throughout the rest of the game, and it just doesn't seem to be there. So the fact that they were able to come back from the early, mid first quarter to third quarter struggles in that fourth quarter. Obviously, it doesn't matter how you start. Vikings with that nice drive, but what matters is how you finish. And they played a phenomenal fourth quarter, both offensively and defensively. I got Night Inks here in the building, 7-1. Really exciting ending. Watching Commanders guy go about it here as well. The waiting is the hardest part. Yes. But a fantastic fourth quarter is really what it boils down to. The Vikings able to come up with a great stop defensively multiple times. The interception, obviously, by Harrison Smith that kind of kickstarted the offense to go back and score. And then, it's just fantastic offense there in the late going. And we got Steggy chiming in here. I know he can't join today, but big win. We'll take the ugly ones. Absolutely. And if you can see, like right down here underneath the Vikings are 7-1 banner, email us skolpurplepodcast@gmail.com if you want to talk about the Vikings game. Or I know Night Inks was in here, so if he wants to chime in here and talk to us a little bit about his 8-0 Philadelphia Eagles, I believe it's 8-0 Eagles. I'm sure he will. Yeah, it's 8-0. They had their bye week already, so. Let yourselves into the green room, I guess, and we would love to have you on. It's just me today. We got everybody else busy today. So glad to have you with us. But the Vikings 7-1, getting the victory was the main thing today. It didn't look pretty for a lot of the game, but once again, the Minnesota Vikings have come to play when it matters the most, and that's in crunch time. The fourth quarter, they stepped up. Their defense, I thought, was fantastic the whole game. Like, obviously, they gave up their yards, as we know the Vikings defense does. But if you take away a ref getting in the way, you're probably not even talking about Washington having a 10-point lead during this game, because that was probably an interception by Cam Bynum. At the very least, an incomplete pass, and Washington's probably not going to score on that drive. But it was just frustrating. The official getting in the way there. I was just like, oh, here we go. This is right what the Vikings. This is how the Vikings. Good luck is going to come to an end. An official gets in the way, and then there was a couple of calls that weren't called, and then all of a sudden the fourth quarter comes around, and the Vikings start to get some of those calls back, and things just start to trend in the right direction. So I don't know what the deal is with Dancer. Obviously, I know he went out. I didn't see him go out. But obviously that's a worrisome thing. But at the same time, Caleb Evans stepped in, Tony, today. He came in and he didn't play too bad. I didn't think he played too badly. I don't think I would want him to get the reps over Dantzler by any means yet, but I thought that he played pretty well in his absence. I'm a little surprised we didn't see more of Andrew Booth Jr. I don't know if he was inactive today or what the deal was with him, but I'd like to see more Andrew Booth Jr. We need to get some of these younger guys in there. Chandon Sullivan, yes, he made that play at the end to keep the clock going and maybe made one other play in the game, but that pass interference, that was a clear pass interference, and here he is just shaking his head like, no, I didn't do anything. It's like, dude, it's pretty obvious you did something. All right. So it's just one of those things that I just don't trust Chandon Sullivan. And that's why I wanted the Vikings to go get Desmond King. Yeah, the ref getting in the way, man. That's classic NFL interfering in the Vikings wins, right? But it didn't matter. Usually those things matter, and here we would be sitting here talking after the game like, well, there's the NFL screwing the Vikings out of a win again by the ref getting in the way, and of course the guy scored on the play. So yeah, no, Evans did really well in spot duty. But yeah, again, if you guys have any questions, make sure to drop them in. And if you want to join me and talk right here on screen, even if you don't want to get your face on the screen, we can have your avatar up and just go with that. You can hear you talk a little bit about the Vikings. I just ask that you would keep it clean. We don't like to get too crazy with swearing or anything on the show, but make sure to drop us an email so I can send you the link, skolpurplepodcast@gmail.com, if you want to try and join the show. But yeah, that was a crazy play. No doubt about it. Should have been picked off, Night Inks. Definitely should have been if the official was not in the way. But again, I'm just so happy that I don't have to sit here and say, well, that's what cost us the game. And I don't think it would have ended up costing us the game anyway, but it's nice to get the win despite the officials trying to rig it. But anyways, that's another topic. How about those Packers losing to the Lions today? Absolutely. Let's go. Let's go. We got to play the horn when that happens too, man. We got to play the horn. So Skol for the Packers losing. I thought, every week I've thought, okay, finally the Packers are going to start to look more like themselves here again. And then they just lose to the Lions. They lost to the Commies, lost to the Giants, lost to the Jets. And they've lost, is it 5 in a row now that the Packers lost? Because didn't they start 3-1 and now they're 3-6, which is just amazing. Like, I love it. Absolutely love every second of it. But yeah, 4.5 game lead for the Minnesota Vikings in the division. So it is fantastic. It is everything this year that, we could have dreamt about. Like, I don't think anybody thought the Vikings would go 7-1. Or if you did, you were extremely optimistic. Like, I didn't think this team was going to go 7-1. And looking back on how they've gone 7-1, it's still surprising that they're 7-1, like the way that they've been winning games, but they've won the games. And maybe this is a little bit of the evening out from last year, where the Vikings were in all of these close games last year and would lose the close games. And now this year it's evening out in the Vikings' favor, and we're 7-1. And, as much as I don't like the way that we're winning going forward, because I still think that may be a problem going forward, I'm happy that some of that bad luck, or some of the things not going our way a year ago, is starting to go our way, which is an encouraging sign, to say the least. But didn't feel like watching football today. I was sad about the Phillies losing. Yeah, man, tough break for the Phillies. But hey, you won the football game, the real battle, right? No, not really, but not really, considering it's the Texans. But it's I think a lot of people were on the Phillies side, even though I'm not a fan of a lot of the fans of Philadelphia. There's a few exceptions, obviously, as yourself, but I think Philadelphia was kind of who a lot of America probably wanted to win, just because of the Houston cheating scandal and all that, and just wanting Houston to not do well. But I didn't want the Yankees in there either, because I'm a Twins fan and we can't ever beat the Yankees. So, there you go. That's my baseball take for the day. And so, yeah, the Vikings. Let's get back to the Vikings here. 7-1. You know what? I've got to give props to Kirk Cousins. I tweeted out on the Skol Purple podcast Twitter feed before the drive when the Vikings were down 17-7. I said, this is where Kirk Cousins has to go make his money. He has to go earn his paycheck right now. Get out there, earn your paycheck. And that's exactly what Kirk Cousins did. I got to give him props when he makes those plays. That throw that he made when he was getting crushed, I think it was Jonathan Allen or Daron Payne, one of those two for Washington, that just crushed him, and then he had to go out for a play. That throw that he made to JJ, absolutely lights out throw right there. That is a big time top 5, top 3 type quarterback throw right there. And I'm not saying that Kirk is, but that was that type of throw that he made on that play. And he also made a really phenomenal throw to Dalvin Cook in the back of the end zone, and a great catch, too, by Dalvin, which we still need to get him more involved in the passing game with not these screen plays all the time, but like that, when he was split out wide or in the slot. We need to do that more often. And I think that'll be interesting. Who do the Vikings face in round 1 of the playoffs this year? Do they win? What's your prediction? Well, that's an interesting thought. I don't know. Could it be the 49ers or Seahawks, whoever doesn't win that NFC West division? Could it be Atlanta if they somehow keep winning, even though they lost today to the Chargers? It's so weird. I mean, could it be Green Bay if they somehow, it doesn't look like it, just by the fact that they lost to the Lions today, it seems like Green Bay's done. Like, it just does. I love every second of it. Seeing Aaron Rodgers complain and being upset on the sidelines, one of the greatest things in the NFL. But I digress on that. I'll say it more often, but I won't say it anymore today, probably. I won't make any promises on that. But to your point, Tony, I don't know. It's kind of tough. The NFC is so weird this year, and I mean the AFC is to an extent as well. The NFL just as a whole, but could it be the Rams? Could it be the Rams if they come back and they beat the Bucs today? Could they end up into the back end of the playoffs as well? So I think it's probably one of those 4 or 5 teams, maybe. Probably not the Packers. It's probably, you're looking at either the Rams, maybe the Seahawks or the 49ers, whoever doesn't win that division as well. So kind of the NFC West, somebody from the NFC West is kind of what I'm thinking, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But also TJ Hawkinson, I got to give a shout out to my Iowa boy, because I'm an Iowa boy myself, not obviously to that level, or did I play college football or high school football for that matter. but I've got to give my boy TJ Hawkinson some credit. What a debut. The Vikings used him quite a bit, and it sounds like he put in a lot of effort, maybe even lost some sleep. I don't know that. That's off the record, but maybe lost some sleep in the process of trying to learn this playbook, because we've seen how sluggish the Vikings offense is at times when they're not able to execute it. Maybe part of it's they still are learning the plays and trying to perfect the plays, really. But Hawkinson did some good things today. I haven't looked at his stat line. I should probably pull up the stats from the game here. But he made some key plays on a third down, I think, to get us inside the 5-yard line on that final field goal drive. And then that unnecessary roughness was just absolutely critical on the Commanders there. Because honestly, I was ready for a Taylor Heineke comeback moment, honestly, coming up, or he was going to throw an interception, classic, like a Brett Favre type of a thing. Aaron Rodgers last year in Green Bay and bring on the Jordan Love era. Yeah, I agree. Let's do it. Or we could just, see Aaron Rodgers struggle for another year. But whatever happens. But yeah, 9 catches, 70 yards for TJ Hawkinson today. And I bet at least 2 of those, maybe even 3 of those, were on third downs. There was a couple of catches where it didn't go very far. Washington on a couple of tight end screens, I think, had him pretty well pegged. But a couple of big plays on third downs to keep drives going. And let's give Greg Joseph, even though he didn't kick a long field goal today, let's give Greg Joseph credit. He made his extra points and he made his field goals. So nice job by Greg, the leg. I still have concerns about him going into the postseason and long term, but he made some good plays today. And Danielle Hunter, man, Danielle Hunter is back, or maybe he never left and he was just not getting the sacks because Zadarius Smith's been doing so well. But a really nice performance today by Danielle Hunter as well. And I really just loved every second of watching Danielle Hunter, because even the fact when he wasn't getting to the passer today, it seemed like he was getting pressure. Like there was one when I think Heineke stepped up and then DJ Wanham ended up getting the sack. And there was part pressure there from Zadarius and then another part pressure from Danielle Hunter as well. So I got to give those guys their due credit as well. 2 sacks today for Danielle, 1 sack for DJ Wanham. Again, Harry the Hitman, the center fielder of the Vikings defense, if you will, at times coming up with a huge interception that kind of switched the momentum. Like the Vikings only getting a field goal before that, it was kind of like, well, Washington could still go on this next drive and do something. But no, Heineke kind of has some pressure, throws an interception to Harrison Smith. I believe that's his second straight game with an interception, Harrison Smith. So fantastic job by him. Dalvin Cook, kind of not a great game today. 17 carries, 47 yards. And Alexander Mattison only had 2 carries in the game, which is kind of interesting. I think that maybe that's something that the Vikings will look at, maybe getting him more involved, because they brought him in for like 1 series or 1 drive, and he didn't get much going in those 2 carries, but I think they could have maybe given him more chances. I'd also like to see Ty Chandler get active, first of all, and then also be used. And I know there's been a few people that have talked about Kene Nwangwu being more active in the Vikings offense, maybe getting him involved like for a package of plays each game. 5 touches or something like that, because he's such a good athlete. But maybe the Vikings just aren't feeling comfortable putting him out there with the way he's picked up the offense, or hasn't picked up the offense. And maybe they just would rather get the ball in Jefferson's hands, which I loved that play call on that third down when Jefferson got the handoff or whatever that was, that he was able to get like 10, 15 yards on or whatever it was. And I love that. KOC on that drive leading up to that field goal attempt, obviously would have loved to get a touchdown there, but the second time you knew they were going to just go for the field goal, because they could give themselves an opportunity to just run the clock down. And that's exactly what they did. And I like that, because you gave Washington, what, 12 seconds to try and do something, 14 seconds, whatever it was by the time they got the ball back. But I I loved some of those play calls. KOC, like I just want to see more of that. Like let's see more consistency. That's the part that really concerns me about this team. Like the defense played well, other than like one really big play, which was a fluke, really, because of the ref getting in the way. And then obviously the underneath stuff, which we know the Vikings defense is going to give up. But I mean, Heineke, all in all, still only threw for 149 yards in this game. Like that is not that good. And the Vikings offense, if they would have shown up, and yeah, let's give credit to Washington's defense. Ed Ingram got abused, and it didn't look like Ezra Cleveland had a very good day at all today either. So those two and the kind of the interior of the Vikings offensive line did not play great. But again, they kind of stepped up when they needed to in that fourth quarter, offensive line included in that, gave Kirk enough time to make throws down the field. But I was kind of interested to see that, or it was interesting to see that Washington kind of laid off on the blitzing Kirk a little bit at times in that second half, especially the fourth quarter. Kind of seemed like they stopped blitzing him as much. And I know that Kirk just historically has struggled more against the blitz if there's a free runner, obviously, going at him. And most quarterbacks do struggle with that. But I was a little surprised that Washington didn't send more blitzes when they weren't getting as much pressure on Kirk. And maybe they just felt like they had a better chance to get him with just four men, or just wanted to play coverage more. And but yeah, and then Justin Jefferson today, he had 115 yards and 7 catches for a touchdown as well. And then he had it was a 10-yard run on that third down as well. But yeah, I think getting him more involved with just moving him around, like in the backfield on that play, like Washington didn't seem like they were prepared for him to get the ball there. Or maybe they didn't think he was going to get the ball. They were just using him as a decoy, the illusion of complexity, as we know the Vikings offense. So very interesting. But yeah, I game ball. I'm gonna go ahead and give my game balls here to, first of all, I'm gonna say Danielle Hunter with those 2 sacks. I think he came out to play today, did his thing, got pressure on the quarterback. And I'm also going to say Kirk Cousins. I'm going to give him a game ball. Obviously, the interception, but he was taking a chance, and it just didn't work out. Jefferson couldn't battle for the football there at the end of the half, and it was the end of the half. Obviously, it would have been nice to just have a field goal, but I was kind of hoping they'd go for the score, and they did, and it backfired, but didn't end up mattering in the end, thankfully. And yeah, those 2 dimes, the dime on that throw to Jefferson when he got almost killed, really. And then also the dime to Dalvin Cook in the back of the end zone for that touchdown. Those 2 throws are why I would give Kirk Cousins a game ball today. And, it's Mullins time. I don't know, man. He didn't look good on that one throw. They're too evil to hope. But, obviously, that was I don't know. I would have probably just ran the ball there, and maybe the defense was expecting it, but it's like, I don't know if I would have tried to run a screenplay there. It just kind of seemed out of rhythm and all that stuff. But yeah, I do agree. But when he made those big time throws, I got to give him credit for those. Too evil to hope. But yeah, that long stretch again. As I don't know if you were hearing me talk about it, where just the offense disappears for stretches in games from basically from the end of that first drive where they scored the touchdown to the fourth quarter. That was like 2.5 quarters of nothing for the Vikings offense. And when you play good teams, like Washington's an okay team, they're kind of in that Arizona Cardinals bin where they might make the playoffs, they might not. You got to be able to score more than what they did today. Obviously, they scored when it counted again. Again, the defense helping out with that. But it's you can't go long stretches in games without scoring, like next week against Buffalo, who lost today, by the way, which is interesting. So maybe Buffalo. I don't know if Buffalo will lose 2 in a row. That's the only thing. Like I figured maybe if Buffalo won today and we won today, or maybe if we lost, that maybe we would go and beat Buffalo. But I have a tough time seeing Buffalo losing twice in a row. And so it'll be interesting, which we can talk a little bit more about that. But did Kirk make a deal with the devil where we will win the Super Bowl, but it will be the ugliest way possible? Hey, you know what? You know what? I like that. I like that, man. Yeah, you like that? I like that. I would like that if the Vikings won the Super Bowl. I don't care how ugly it is. Go win the Super Bowl. Go do it. Go do it. Go win the Super Bowl, man. It doesn't matter how you win the Super Bowl. Just ask the Saints, by the way. Yes, I'm going to jab at the Saints. But game ball to Danielle Hunter and Kirk Cousins. And you know what? Just because I love him to death, because he's an Iowa boy, I'll give one to TJ Hawkinson as well. TJ Hawkinson gets a game ball as well for a couple of nice catches in the game and a couple of key spots. But man, that is a threat. And Mark Schlereth, which we can debate on how good he is of a color guy, but he made some good points on TJ Hawkinson just being a big threat to add to this Vikings offense, which Irv Smith, he never made a big impact on this Vikings offense, but this is kind of what we were hoping Irv Smith would be, a 9-catch, 70-yard type of a game. And it was a nice game for TJ Hawkinson. Not great in terms of the yardage. Like he's not a Travis Kelce, but I mean, I would keep Irv too evil to hope because he's going to be gone in the offseason anyway, unless the Vikings want to bring him back, which they probably could for pretty cheap, by the way, because he hasn't proven anything over these last few years. Like if anybody would give him $5 million a year or more, I'd be kind of surprised. And maybe they would, just with the cap going up and stuff. But yes, the Packers losing. We got to get the horn in there again. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, indeed. We'll take it every time, baby. Every time. To the Lions. Not only did they lose, but they lost to the Lions, man. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But the only reason I would say this too evil to hope is if you still think there is some semblance of hope for Irv, and because he's going to be cheap. Like those are the only reasons I would keep Irv around, because you could use him, and if Johnny Munt is back next year, bring Irv Smith back, and then you got TJ Hawkinson, unless the Vikings decide, all right, we're done with Irv. Let's go draft another tight end to go with Hawkinson, which I would love that, by the way. Or maybe they'll just go ahead and draft a receiver. Because again, it seems like the Vikings could use another receiver out there, like, or maybe it's just Kirk not finding guys, whatever. But again, Vikings getting the victory. They are 7-1, and they probably will lose next week to Buffalo. But man, if they somehow go and beat Buffalo next week, I'm going to tell you right now, if they beat Buffalo next week, I'm calling it. I'm saying I'm officially on the Super Bowl contender parade. I'm officially on the Super Bowl contender hype, if you will. If they go and beat Buffalo next week, I will be on the Super Bowl train. But I don't think it's going to happen. I just don't think the Vikings have enough consistency on offense. And I do think their defense will break a little bit too much next week. And I think Leslie Frazier is going to know how to get a good game plan for Kirk Cousins. So that's why I am thinking the Vikings will end up losing next week. But if they somehow can get it done, I am going to put my name in as officially on the Vikings are Super Bowl contenders list. Irv can come back as the janitor. Oh man. Whoo! We're just killing Irv Smith today, guys. Let's calm down a little bit here. Let's calm down a little bit here. But anyways, any other questions? I think we're getting closer to the end here, unless somebody wants to hop on to the Fan Express line. Again, Skol Purple Podcast. Appreciate you tuning in here to the Fan Express line, getting the fan interaction going. So yeah, it's another one of those games where the Vikings just find a way to win, and we'll take it. We'll take those games, even if they're a little frustrating at times. Like the thing that the thing that is most encouraging to me, maybe, or maybe is most like kind of almost like eye opening, is the fact that I thought they were down and out. I think everybody thought they were down and out at the end of that third quarter when they were down 17-7, and all of a sudden they get a field goal. Defense gets a takeaway. Complimentary football. How many times have I talked about this on the talked about that on this show? Complimentary football. The defense, after the field goal, goes and gets a takeaway. Offense puts it in. Dalvin Cook, and then it's tied. And then the Vikings get another. Get the ball again. Go up 20-17. But yeah, it's interesting. Does the Jets exposing the Bills give us an edge? I don't know. I think the Bills. I think the Jets have just that good of a defense. They don't. The Vikings, as good as the Vikings defense is, well, maybe I shouldn't say that, but as good as the Vikings defense was at times today, I don't think they're as good as the Jets defense. Hey, Philly Sports Talk Podcast. How's it going, man? I think Robert Saleh is an excellent defensive coordinator, defensive mind, and I don't see us having that in Ed Donatel, and the fact that Robert Saleh has seen the Bills so many times, knows their tendencies inside and out, and maybe the Vikings could take away from that a little bit and come up and surprise us next week. Hopefully that is the case, but I'm just glad we ended up winning this game, because now next week, if we somehow win that's just kind of gravy, really. Like, if we could somehow beat the Bills next week, that's going to be amazing. And like I said, I'll hop on the train. I'll hop on the Super Bowl contender train if they beat the Bills next week. But I want to see it to believe it. I just think the Bills maybe didn't play their best today either, but I also think Robert Saleh is a good defensive coordinator. I'm still not sold on Zach Wilson, but he made a few throws that needed to be made in the game. And Sauce Gardner, the Vikings do not have a Sauce Gardner on their team. I will tell you that right now. Like, Patrick Peterson's been pretty solid, but he's not Sauce Gardner. And Cam Dantzler definitely is not. Hopefully, first of all, that he gets better, but I don't think we're going to have anybody to cover Diggs consistently. I think Diggs is going to run ragged on this defense. Would not surprise me, but hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully the Vikings have a good game plan in place, and we'll have to wait and see what happens next week. But yeah, I'm not so confident in beating the Bills, or even that'll be close, because I could see us losing. Like, if we play offensively like we did for those 2.5 quarters today, we will not beat the Bills, and we will probably get blown out of the building, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. We're probably going to lose like 31-7 or 38-7, because we know Philadelphia likes to throw that back on us. But anyways, I think the Vikings need to be consistent next week offensively, and I'm worried about it. But like I said, if they somehow beat the Bills next week, I'm on the Super Bowl train. You better believe it. Rap, if you're watching this, if you come back and watch this, Rap, I'm on the Super Bowl train next week if we beat Buffalo. If not, then I'm going to pump the brakes on the Super Bowl train. But anyways, I think that is about going to wrap things up for us here. Vikings getting the win. Loved the by the way, loved the bowling celebration. The bowling celebration by the Vikings defense. That was an elite celebration, as Nick Olson phrased it on Twitter. An absolutely elite celebration right there. So, and well-deserved. Vikings defense played fantastic today. Other than one big play that shouldn't have happened. Thank you again, referee. They did everything that they needed to do to win this game. And again, I would have blamed the offense had they lost this game. But once again, the offense saves the day in the end. They come to get the win. And what a couple of big time throws by Kirk Cousins. Obviously wasn't great at times before that, but when it mattered, Kirk Cousins made the throws, and we got to give him his props. We got to give him his props when he makes the throws. I criticize when I don't think he's doing well, and I give him props when I do think he's doing well. That's my goal. I don't want to be too much of a hater, and I don't want to be a Kirk lover either. I just want to criticize him fairly, and I try to do that with every player on the team. Like, if TJ Hawkinson has a drop, I will call it out. You know, as much as I love my Iowa guys, I'm going to call it out if he has a drop. And he did actually miss a block one time today, by the way. Let a free rusher go to Kirk Cousins. That was a big blunder there, but overall he played a pretty good game for the Vikings in his Vikings debut. But Vikings get the win. They're 7-1, 20-17 victory over the Washington Commanders, and you better believe that we like that. Absolutely, we love it. And hopefully the Vikings can surprise all of us next week and somehow beat the Bills as the Jets did today. I'm not fully convinced that it will happen, but you never know. You never know. So anyways, thank you all for joining the Skol Purple podcast today. Got to get the horn. Once again, victory horn. The Vikings are 7-1. This has been the Fan Express Line. Make sure to tune in later this week. We may have a special guest this week to talk about the Bills game. And we also, of course, later in the week have Skol with Steggy that hopefully we will have this week, depending on his travel schedule. I know Tony's got a lot going on, but hopefully we'll have that for you as well. Always make sure to ring the bell and put the notifications on so that way you can be updated every time we have a new video. So that is going to do it for us here on the Skol Purple podcast. Appreciate you tuning in. And as always, you know what I'm going. Skol.